Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT9, and BT9 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be a brand new iteration on the Mastemon deck. So the Mastemon deck is a very powerful DNA based deck where we're just trying to line up our DNA Digivolution and kind of control the field from there, utilizing our level 5 slot more than any other slot to act as a nice toolbox of different abilities to try to stop some of the opponent's actions and try to increase our overall board state all at the same time, just because of how Mastemon works. So what BT9 is adding to the deck is just a new evolution line that is supporting two colors, and the two colors it's supporting is going to just so happen to be yellow and purple. So without further ado, onto the actual deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running one copy of DemiMeramon. This is the 5th egg. If you want to run it, you can. If you don't want to run it, that's fine. All this card is really doing is just adding a nice inheritable ability of allowing us to, on delete, draw one card and discard one card, cycling through our deck and selectively fill up our trash, so that way we have particular cards in our trash that we want to try to use and capitalize on. But as far as the main Digitama goes, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Nyaromon, just because it's doing a very similar thing, except a little bit more proactive on it. So it has a when attacking ability, where if you have a yellow Digimon in play, then we get to draw one card and then discard one card, again, trying to cycle through our deck and selectively fill up our trash, so that way we could optimize on our cards on how we're going to be using them. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Gazimon. So Gazimon is an anti-meta floodgate card to try to stop and limit some of the opponent's actions, and his all turns ability states that your opponent can't gain memory except by tamer effects, limiting their memory manipulating shenanigans. And similarly to Gazimon, I'm also going to be running 2 copies of Psychemon. So Psychemon is another floodgate card where it's trying to, during all turns, stop the player from reducing play costs. So this is really good against D-Reapers, this is really good against any deck that's utilizing Dexmon, and various other decks that just want to hard play some of their cards to, again, try to stop them from trying to do that and make their cards less efficient unless they deal with our floodgates. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Salamon. So this is the brand new BT9 version of Salamon, and this card is a really good digging tool for the deck. So its on-play ability states that we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our deck, add a 2-color purple card from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. And because of the new Meikoomon line, we're actually playing more 2-color cards now than we were in the past, making the Salamon a better search tool to ensure that we could try to hit our targets. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Candlemon. So Candlemon is just helping us with our own memory manipulation, trying to make our own cards a little bit more efficient. So what he's doing is he has the inheritable ability of during all turns, once per turn, when you play another purple Digimon, then we get to gain 1 memory, and we could do this and set it up thanks to our Mastemon's ability to help us play our level 5s, or some of our various other card effects like Flame Hellscythe. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Meicoomon. So Meicoomon is going to be a 2-color card in purple and yellow for us to use it and help synergize it with the deck, on top of the fact that it is a security Digimon, so when it is checked in the security, it'll just be able to play itself for free, and that's pretty valuable because it could also combo and synergize with Mastemon's ability. Then on top of that, it has a nice on-delete inheritable ability for our higher level Digimon to use to de-incentivize the opponent from wanting to delete our Digimon, where if the Digimon has 2 or more colors, then we get to gain 2 memory, making it so that the opponent's cards might be a little bit less efficient, or rewarding us for being extra aggressive by allowing us to gain that memory to do various other actions with. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be probably one of the best cards, if not the best card in the entire deck, and that's going to be 4 copies of Gatomon. So this is the starter deck version of Gatomon, and this card is doing so much for the deck that it's actually kind of crazy. So it has a nice on-play ability where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, add 1 yellow Digimon and 1 purple Digimon from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So not only is it just acting as one of the best consistency tools for the deck for utilizing it, it is also still both a 2-color Digimon in yellow and purple to, again, act as another card to help our Salamon be able to find it. Then on top of that, it has an ability where during your turn, when this Digimon would digivolve into a Digimon with Archangel or Fallen Angel in its traits, then we get to reduce the cost of that Digivolution by 2, making it so that we have a nice easy way to be able to climb up our stages, so that way we don't necessarily pass the turn when we need to set up our DNA. And this card also helps set up our DNA with its inheritable ability, where at the end of your turn, you may DNA digivolve this Digimon and one of your other Digimon in play into a Digimon from our hand by paying its DNA Digivolution cost. So essentially, we're going to try to hard play Gatomon, use its ability to dig out our cards, next turn digivolve relatively cheaply into a level 5, and then hard play a secondary level 5 to then line up said DNA Digivolution. And that's what's making Gatomon so powerful, is just if they don't get rid of Gatomon, then more than likely a Mastemon is going to be coming out the following turn. And then as far as our level 5s go, we just have a wide variety of really powerful level 5s that we can utilize. So I'm going to be playing 3 copies of LadyDevimon as one of the best targets to digivolve into our Gatomon with, just because the when digivolving ability of drawing 2 and discarding 2 is really valuable at not only just cycling through our deck and seeing lots of cards, but selectively filling up the trash with the few cards that we want in our trash. Then on top of that, she has a nice inheritable ability for us to use, where during your turn, once per turn, when you use an option card, we get to delete one of the opponent's level 3 Digimon, just adding some extra control into the deck. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Lucemon Chaos Mode. So Lucemon Chaos Mode is going to be one of the primary targets, if not the primary target, that we want to use with our Mastemon's ability to help play it for free. So we don't necessarily care about the fact that we could digivolve it on top of a Lucemon, or the fact that we could hard play it for a reduced cost for every 10 cards in our trash. We're just using him for his on-play ability to be able to delete one of the opponent's tamers or level 6 or lower Digimon, so that way we could try to help control the opponent's field when we go into our Mastemon turn. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Maycrackmon Vicious Mode. So Maycrackmon is another new card added into the deck from BT9, and this is a really good card to synergize with just all of the different ways that we have to play it. So it has the on-play and when digivolving condition of allowing us to trash out 1 card from our hand, and if that card was purple, then we get to delete an opponent's Digimon that's level 3 or lower, and if the card was yellow, then one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP. So this is just really good at being able to deal with wide small boards, on top of the fact that it is 2 colors to add to our overall 2-color synergy, on top of the fact that it has the same inheritable ability as Meikoomon to gain us 2 memory when our higher level Digimon is going to get deleted, which could be really annoying for the opponent to deal with at times. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of MagnaAngemon. So MagnaAngemon is another fantastic level 5 for this deck to play. It's one of the most important level 5s just because of all of the good synergy that it has with the deck. So him having 6000 DP does matter for Hellscythe. Him having an on-play ability to recover 1 is really good, again, for Hellscythe and for Mastemon, and just a hard play to be able to line up our DNA. Then on top of that, this card has an inheritable ability for our higher levels to take advantage of, where during your turn, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP for every 3 cards in our security, which most of the time we're trying to have a somewhat healthy security to be able to actually utilize this buff. But even if we don't utilize this buff, it's not going to be the end of the world just because of all of the other synergies that are being lined up. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Angelmon. So Angelmon is another really good card for all of those same types of synergies that we're trying to utilize with our MagnaAngemon. So its on-play ability states that we get to have one of the opponent's Digimon get security attack -2, which may or may not be relevant depending on what deck we're going up against, on top of the fact that it does have a nice inheritable ability that's actually really good and more beneficial for our higher levels to use, because it's going to be giving them security attack plus as long as we have a purple Digimon in play, which most of our higher levels are going to be both colors, so that way we could take full advantage of the aggression this card is adding. Next, on to the level 6s, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Ophanimon Falldown mode. So Ophanimon Falldown mode is still just one of the best level 6s for the deck to run because of all of the 2-color synergies that we now have more of. So it's when Digivolving ability allows us to delete a level 4 or lower Digimon on the opponent's side of the field as long as its inheritables include a purple Digimon, and if that inheritable is a yellow Digimon, then we get to recover 1, adding to the overall recovery factor to try to help us stay in the game a little bit longer. And obviously, if the Digimon is both colors or there's 2 different colors in its inheritables, then we get both effects, making this card super powerful. On top of the fact that this card does have an on-deletion ability to be extra annoying with, especially in combination with our Maycrackmon and our Meikoomon, where we get to play a purple or yellow level 4 or lower Digimon from our trash without paying its memory cost, and the most ideal targets are going to be either our Gazimons, our Salamon, or our Gatomon to be able to line up a new DNA Digivolution play or shut out some of the opponent's plays or act as some good consistency. Then the new addition into the deck is going to be 1 copy of Raguelmon. So Raguelmon is in the deck just for the Ordinemon synergy, just because it has an on-play ability where we get to play a purple or yellow Digimon with 6,000 DP or less from our trash without paying its memory cost. And if we have 1 or fewer cards in our security, then we get to play a level 6 or lower Digimon with Angel or Fallen Angel in its traits from our trash instead. So if we're at a low security count, then it just literally gives us the ability to hard play this card and then DNA into a free Ordinemon, because its secondary ability allows us to do that. We're at the end of our turn, which if we're playing this card, there's a very high chance that we're going to be passing the turn over. Then you may DNA Digivolve this Digimon and one of our other Digimon in play into a Digimon in our hand by paying its DNA Digivolution cost. So the fact that it's just a single card to help set up our Ordinemon makes it a really decent card for us to be using on top of the 2-color synergy that we're already playing into. And then the last level 6 of the deck is going to be the star of the deck, and that's going to be 4 copies of Mastemon. So Mastemon is still just an absolute insane card at being able to steamroll the opponent because of how swingy its ability is, especially when lined up with our wide variety of different effects on our level 5s. So it has the DNA Digivolution ability where we could DNA it for 0, overpaying its cost of 5, on top of a yellow and purple Digimon. Then on top of that, its when Digivolving ability allows us to place a yellow or purple Digimon from our trash into our security face down. Then when we DNA Digivolved into this card, then we get to search our security stack and play 1 level 5 or lower Digimon without paying its memory cost. So this is just what's allowing us to easily line up our Maycrackmon. It's allowing us to easily line up our MagnaAngemon, our Angemon, and our Lucemon, all to try to gain the benefits of their on-play abilities. And then obviously we have to shuffle our security stack after we played the card. Then during all turns, which is what's adding to the overall control aspect of the deck, when another Digimon is played using an effect, then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon whose level is equal to or less than the Digimon that was just played. So off of our Meikoomon security ability, we get to delete an extra level 4. Off of our Lucemon, we get to delete a level 5, and then Lucemon's ability helps us delete either a Tamer or another Digimon. So we could just start utilizing these types of abilities to gain and rack up lots of additional value. And then the last Digimon and only level 7 of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Ordinemon. So Ordinemon is a purple-yellow level 7 for us to use, so it's adding to the overall consistency on our cards on at least giving us targets that we could pick from. But what this card is doing is it has the very powerful DNA Digivolution ability where we could Digivolve it for 0 instead of Digivolving it for 6. On top of it, 2 level 6s, one of them being purple, one of them being yellow, which our Raguelmon hopefully will be able to set up, and at worst, if we're just able to tempo into a secondary level 6, then we still have an alternative way to be able to utilize this card just because we're reviving level 5s to easily line up that level 6. Then on top of that, what we're actually trying to gain out of this card is its when Digivolving ability, where when we DNA Digivolved into this card, we get to delete one of the opponent's level 6 or higher Digimon and all of their level 5 and lower Digimon, and for each Digimon deleted this way, then we get to recover 1. So it's just allowing us to control the field and increase our security all in one go to make for a very powerful tempo swing. Then she has an on-delete ability if and when the opponent actually does delete this card, where we get to trash the top card of your security stack and be able to play this card without paying its memory cost, acting as a really sticky body that the opponent is going to have a hard time dealing with just because of the fact that she actually isn't really dying. And then as far as the options go, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Purple Memory Boost just for some extra consistency, just because sometimes you need to find your parts and pieces, and Memory Boost is a good card to not only just help us find those parts and pieces by revealing the top 4 of our deck and adding a purple Digimon from among them into our hand, and the rest go to the bottom, but it's also going into the battle area to set up its secondary main ability of Delay to gain us 2 memory at a later turn to be able to make more powerful follow-up turns with. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Flame Hellscythe. So Flame Hellscythe is an absolutely insane card in this deck with all of the different synergies that we're playing around with, and most of the time this is going to be a 3-for-1 in terms of value. So what this card is doing for the low cost of 6 is its main ability states that one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 6,000 DP for the turn. Then we may play a purple or yellow Digimon with 6,000 DP from our trash without paying its memory cost, and its security ability is activating its main. So this just has a lot of different synergies all lining up very nicely. So this in combination with Mastemon will delete an extra Digimon. This in combination with any of our on-play abilities like Angemon, MagnaAngemon, and Meikoomon will just add more to what this card is doing because of their on-play abilities, because we actually still get them, and it's still trying to help delete or at least reduce the opponent's Digimon's DP all in one card. Next, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Reinforced Memory Boost just because, well, this card is still that good to run. So it has the main ability where we get to reveal the top 2, place one of them into our hand, and then one of them into our security face down, helping us rig our security and heal us all at the same time, on top of replacing itself. Then it sets up, then after its usage, it'll stay in the battle area because it's a memory boost, and we could use its main ability of Delay to gain 3 memory at a later turn. So this just helps us make even more powerful tempo swings when we need to crack the card to gain that instant memory at a later turn. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Chaos Degradation. So Chaos Degradation is acting as our main big body removal. So what this card is doing is its main ability allows us to place one of the opponent's Digimon face down on the top or bottom of the opponent's security stack. Then we get to trash the top card of the opponent's security stack. So it's helping us get rid of some bodies alternatively that a lot of Digimon that currently have protection actually doesn't have protection against. Then on top of that, its security ability is at worst still going to get rid of the opponent's Digimon, or its attempt to, where you get to place one of the opponent's Digimon face down on the top or bottom of their security stack. Unfortunately, we don't get the burn effect, but it's still good enough at just getting rid of whatever we kind of need to get rid of, and in this type of a format, the only real counter to this card is Congo, so it's going to be one of the more powerful and potent security threats that we have. Next, on to the Tamers, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Meiko. So Meiko is going to act as another consistency tool that the deck kind of was lacking before, where her on-play ability states that we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck and add 1 purple or yellow Digimon from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the trash. So this also just helps us fill up our trash while looking for the parts and pieces we're trying to find. Then on top of that, she has an all turns ability that we really want to take advantage of, where when you play a 2-color purple and yellow Digimon specifically, then you get to suspend this tamer to gain 1 memory, which just helps us be able to play lots of our cards. So if we're using this in combination with our level 4s, then it's just reducing the play cost of our level 4s. If we're using this in combination with Maycrackmon, then it's helping reduce Maycrackmon, making her easier to use as one of the primary cards to not necessarily digivolve into, but to hard play. And on top of that, it's also helping with Raguelmon to be able to line up our Ordinemon a little bit more efficiently. So there's just a lot of different cards that this is interacting with to make our deck a little bit smoother. And then the last card and tamer of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Kari Kamiya. So this is the BT08 version of Kari, and this is going to be acting as the deck's dedicated memory setter. So if our memory is ever less than 3, she'll just always hard set us to 3 to allow us to make our plays a little bit more efficient. Then on top of that, what she's doing is she's interacting with the fact that we're going to be adding cards into our security, and she's going to be gaining us a memory for doing so, where during your turn, when a card is added to your security stack, then we get to suspend this tamer to gain 1 memory, and this does stack per Kari, so the more Karis that we have on the field, the more efficient our recovery or security type of abilities become. And I know this deck is going to be a little bit more on the expensive side in terms of its overall cost, but there are a whole bunch of different cards that we could do to try to substitute and reduce the overall cost, so that way you could try to at least have the ability to play the deck in some capacity. So if you wanted some good alternative rookies to think about, you have Tapermon for its on-delete ability of drawing a card. You have Psychemon as another searcher. This is mostly searching for our angels and fallen angels and archangels, which is not necessarily what the entire deck is made of, but you could tech the deck to incorporate a little bit more to make him a little bit more consistent. Then we do have Salamon to be able to line up various other DNA plays, so if you wanted to run something like a Shikuamon sub-package inside of the deck, then this is a really good card to help complement that, just for some extra recovery and extra control. Then we also have Black Gatomon as another 2-color Digimon for us to utilize, especially in combination with Meiko, reducing its play cost because it natively has the Rush ability and inheritably has the Retaliation ability, which actually could be pretty annoying for the opponent to deal with, especially if they're Green Grandis. Then it kind of forces them not to attack our Digimon, which is not exactly what they want. On top of the fact that if you want an even more budget-friendly 2-color card, we also have Wizardmon that comes from the starter deck on our level 4 slot as well, on top of any other really good techie level 4s. Then outside of the level 5 package that we do have some other really cool and interesting level 5s, so a really good budget replacement for something like Lucemon is going to be Mastemon, just because he is a fallen angel to interact with at least that part of the deck, on top of the fact that he's another level 5 with a good on-play ability for purple, where we get to draw 2 and trash 2, which just helps us cycle through our deck, and then when we trash cards from our hand, which is what we're seldomly doing, then he makes our cards a little bit more memory efficient as a good inheritable. Then LadyDevimon is just a good budget card to go into the deck, just because she was already part of the starter deck, which you needed in order to play Mastemon, so it just has lots of built-in synergy, acting as another consistency tool to try to dig out our parts and pieces, and its inheritable ability of being able to give all of our Digimon that are yellow Retaliation is pretty nice, on top of the fact that its stats line up very nicely for Flame Hellscythe. Then some really good alternative level 7s that you could run is going to be Dexmon or DeathXmon, just because that card's insane in virtually any deck to use, but we, at least in Mastemon being part purple, have the ability to Digivolve into it if we want to. And then another really good supporting level 7 that you could run outside of Ordinemon and DeathXmon is going to be Omnimon's Warped Defeat, because, well, he is a security Digimon, and if he comes out of our security while Mastemon's on the field, then we just get to delete any Digimon period, because there's nothing higher than a level 7 currently. Then if we wanted to, we could also think about running Merciful Mode, just because he could Digivolve on top of an Omnimon, which we could run Warped Defeat as our Omnimon, and he's just another control tool for the deck to use while trying to also passively burn the opponent's security. Then we do have Calling from the Darkness as a really good card to try to delete our own Digimon to trigger our various effects while adding cards up from our trash back into our hand, so that way we could reuse specific parts and pieces that we're thinking about needing. And then we have Dead or Alive as another really good card to try to synergize with the fact that we're going to be trying to play our level 5s and get their on-play abilities off, and that's what makes this card a really nice security threat as well, because again, it could combo with Mastemon, or even if we just use this card to be able to play Lucemon, it's still just a really devastating move for the opponent to deal with. Then we do have a wide variety of different tamers that we could think about incorporating, so if you want to go a little bit more option and security control heavy, then you could run Purple Mimi, or you could just run Purple Kari, just because, again, we're already having that interaction with our security, and it acts as a really good de-incentivization tool for the opponent attacking into our security, just because when cards are removed, we get a gain of memory. which could combo nicely with TK if you have TK, just to add some overall consistency, because now we are playing a little bit more yellow into our yellow-purple deck because of our 2-color synergy cards, so TK is a really good alternative memory setter. Then if you just want to run some other really solid duo tamers, we do have TK and Kari to gain us a lot of extra tempo in case the opponent is trying to aggress into us and our security is just already lower than the opponent's. Then on top of that, we also have TK and Izzy to take advantage of the fact that we already want to be playing a lot of level 5s to help us gain some extra memory, and if the opponent has some level 5s, then we also get to gain even more memory. But for the most part, this is just my interpretation on a Mastemon deck in BT9. Ordinemon seems like it's a really good card. I don't know if it's actually going to pan out, but at worst, you could always just swap out the Raguelmon and the Ordinemon and open up some deck space for various other tech and tools that you think it might be good for the meta, and that's kind of what makes Mastemon a really good deck, is there's just a whole bunch of different ways to be able to tech it pending what the meta is going to be asking of you, making her still a really strong and powerful deck on top of what she was already doing before, thanks to all of these new tech and tools. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.